that makes him get his second term unopposed. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Before I came back, the then president, I came back from England. I lived in England 25 years, came back 14 years ago. I've been living in Igbo land for the last 14 years. So I know the problems of the Southeast. I know the problems of Anambra State. Before I came back, the president, then Obasanjo, set up the London group to bring all the professionals, Nigerian professionals in the UK together under one umbrella. And an election was called, and again, I won that election as the chairman, the first chairman of the London group, before coming back to Nigeria. In Nigeria, I won 2 straight elections, unprecedented second terms, because I lived up to my promises. But about that, I'm not here to sort of brag about my leadership skills, but I'm here to tell you my story, and I say my story with every sense of humility. Tonight is a manifesto night, so what am I going to do as governor of Anambra State if I'm lucky to be elected? First, I run an Action Alliance in this election. We are running on a 5-point agenda, and the first being security. When my brother and my friend, Colonel Jeff, came up here, security was mentioned a few times, and quite rightly so. Our number one priority is security. The place is unsafe. The place is insecure. The place is not safe at all. And if a state is not safe, education cannot work. The health sector cannot work. Agriculture cannot work because our children and women will be in farms and they'll be attacked. You cannot even do integrated infrastructure. So we need to fix security first. That's a given. Second point, education. Education would have been our number one priority. Education would have been our second priority, third priority, fourth priority. But unfortunately, because of the state of insecurity, education is relegated to second place on our 5-point agenda. We will have schools that look like schools, and we will train students to graduate that will look like students. And when I say this, I say it proudly. I am somebody that had my kids abroad. It would have been easy to train them abroad, but I said no. I brought them back to Nigeria. They all did their nursery school in Nigeria, primary school in Nigeria, secondary school in Nigeria, first degree in Nigeria. What does that tell you about this guy? That I believe in this country. The biggest assets that I have are my kids. And if I'm willing to risk their education, the most important thing I can ever bequeath to them in Nigeria, it means I have faith that yes, things are not going well in Nigeria, but with a little tweaking here and there, we can get it right. So education is number 2. Our third point is health. Anambra doesn't have a single world-class hospital. Not one. Point number 4, agriculture. In the 60s, we had a great man, a great leader, and indeed I want to be like him. I want to be the next M.I. Obara. He was an altruistic leader. He was not materialistic at all. M.I. led us so well that within the first 4 years, from 1960 to 1964, he was able to rejig the economy of the Eastern region to being one of the fastest growing economies of the world. Okay? If he could do it in the 60s, go to Israel, bring in the Israelis to come and revolutionize and industrialize, mechanize agriculture in the Eastern region. Why can we not do it today better? Okay? With a leader who has a great worldview. With all the gadgets that today's agriculture offers. So we need to use agriculture, A, to feed ourselves, 2, to earn, 3, to curb unemployment. Okay? There's so many things. Export food, so many things, food sustenance, so many things we can do with agriculture. So that's point number 4. But finally, before I take your questions, integrated infrastructure. What do I mean by integrated infrastructure? Every governor will want to be known as the man that did 2,000 kilometers of roads in 4 years. I'm not interested in that. Anambra has the best network of roads of all the states in Nigeria, thanks to former governors, by the way. But what we have now is a situation where all the roads are pothole filled. So instead of awarding new roads, so that people will say, oh, Governor Etiaba II or whatever did this road, why can we not go back to fixing all the roads already done in the past that are failing? Integrated infrastructure. Why build more roads when you have a situation where all our junctions are bottlenecked every season? Christmas period, you cannot go through Nobi. cannot go through Oga, cannot go through Epulob. Name them, all the junctions. My brother here, Val, cannot go home. He'll be stuck in one place for hours trying to get home. Okay? So, before we begin to build new roads, why don't we find solution to those bottlenecks? If we have to do flyovers, we do them. If we have to expand the roads or turn some of them into proper traffic management, fix our roads before you can do new ones. Integrated infrastructure. You see, Anambra State is littered, as in many states, by the way, of Nigeria, with abandoned projects. They're all over. Why go begin new projects when the existing ones are abandoned? Projects started with your money, not done, not finished, so that the previous governors will not take credit for those infrastructure. And sometimes we even get our priorities wrong. I'll give you an example. We're here in Women Development Center, the Rack in the center. This place has remained unfinished for decades. Yet we're doing a world-class international conference center a few doors away from here. It just doesn't make sense to me. And if you look at the money being sunk in that project, to me, a fraction of it could have been used to finish here. Turn this place into a world-class setting, okay? And even the location of the new conference center is completely wrong. Because once that place becomes functional, it will be a traffic nightmare when you have events there. Okay? So these are some of the examples. Integrated infrastructure. The place is filthy. Anambra State is filthy. Why can we not clean Anambra State up? I mean, coming here, you would have seen that most of our roads are now garbage collection points. Okay? Why can we not clean the place and turn all that waste into energy? Okay, we're doing not too badly individually in solar power, in terms of power generation. Why can we not seek wind turbines, as is done in Scotland now? Most of the farmers, great farmers in Scotland, they are leasing their lands out to wind turbines. Why can we not do that to give our place the energy we need? And monorail, there's so much that I'll talk about, but let's take those by way of questions. Thank you.
Well, Chief Echaba,
thank you.
I'd like to bring up something in this regard about, social culture and about investment. Anambra is the home of many successful businessmen and women. If we were to count private jets in Nigeria, the people of Anambra State probably own more private jets than any other state in this country. But many of these privileged Anambra State rich men and women, they relate to Anambra more for holiday purposes or to just come home and show off their wealth. If you were to become the governor, what will you do to attract this quality human resource to invest more in their own home state than in other parts of the world? And then, to do more for their people, especially now that we have an international convention center coming up and an international airport that I understand will be commissioned before the end of the year.
Thank you so much, Ruben. That's very easy. What we've lacked is the right leadership that understands that we need to provide the enabling environment for our people to come back home. First, to come back home to invest, not just to come and visit or attend funerals or whatever. If you go to Lagos, the highbrow estates, the big hotels, the same thing Abuja, are owned by Anambra. But in Anambra here, name one 5-star hotel, none. But I can tell you at least 5 of my friends who own 5-star hotels across the nation, okay? So, if the place is not safe, if you don't make it conducive for them to be able to come back to invest and be able to, sort of provide the leadership that they can all believe in and know that their money will be safe if they come back to invest, they will not come back. So the first thing is to provide and reassure them the enabling environment for them to come back and invest, to know that their money is safe, okay? Even in the Anambra, quite a lot of the homes in Enugu owned by Anambra people. But you can't come back here and see such quality homes in Anambra. We have treated Anambra as just one place that you sort of come back to for a few days for funerals, or over the Christmas period, you come back with your 10-car convoy, which is why during those festive periods, nobody moves around. You cannot go through any junction because they come back with 10 sort of car convoy, okay, even intimidating the governor. So what we need to do is to have a leader who understands that the environment has to be right, the infrastructure has to be right, and the thinking and the creativity has to be there for these people to think home and I intend to offer that. Thank you.
Well, Professor Eziajuri.
Okay, thank you. Your 5-point agenda actually connects all the critical areas of need in Anambra State. So let's look at the healthcare system. You talked about it. The government hospitals are in shambles. Patients are directed from government hospitals to private clinics and private labs for tests and to access other medical facilities. So how do you, especially the health centers that are easily accessible to the common man in the rural areas, they are not functional. There are no medical doctors attached to them anyway, and they do not have facilities most of the time. So how do you hope to revitalize the healthcare system of the state if you are made the governor of Anambra State?
Okay, thank you. I think when I spoke earlier, I touched on this. Anambra has about 1,232 clinics, health centers, and hospitals. And 60% of those are government-owned, 40% privately owned. But you find that those government-owned hospitals and clinics are abandoned, but the private ones thrive, okay? What we need to do, first of all, is to have clinics and hospitals that look like hospitals, okay? Because there are some structures that, if they tell you that this is where you'll be healed, you'll run away. First of all, anya nebuze Alicia before onwe Elia. So you will need to have the infrastructure right. It is not the building that makes a hospital, but the building has to be right, has to be clean, okay? And all the accesses will have to be there. The equipments must be there. And the personnel who will use those equipments must be properly trained, okay, on how to, and that's why I'm calling on help from abroad for our medical personnel to come back to help us here. But it's not just that. Doctors go on strike from time to time. Why don't you ensure that these guys are paid properly and paid promptly? By the time you do a combination of all these things, you begin to have the healthcare facilities that will be ideal for our people. But I also say this, I'm not here to castigate the government that nothing is going right. We have the Anambra Health Insurance Scheme. That's actually a good development. Anambra will have over 4.5 million citizens, okay? But in that health insurance scheme, the take-up rate at this moment is about 120,000, which is very, very, very low, okay, where you pay 12,000 naira to access basic health care for the year. So what we intend to do is to ensure that we get more people into that scheme, and out of that, all of that, about 60% are actually government workers. It's only just about 40% that are people who are private sector people signed up to the scheme. So we intend to widen the thing, make it cheaper like every insurance scheme by making it more accessible to our people. So I think they're doing something right there in that sector. Thank you. About the health insurance scheme.
Okay, Professor Gujo.
Thank you, Mr. Etiaba, for your articulate presentation.
Thank you, Prof.
Especially on the 5-point agenda.
Thank you.
My question is only on education. And you mentioned how you are interested in that area also. Just one question. Anambra State, you know, is one of the most highly educated states in Nigeria. In the annual WAEC ranking of schools, secondary schools, Anambra State comes first, second, or third. But we have a university, the only one we have, that ranks, that is the poorest developed in the Southeast, where the government is investing practically nothing. 150 million a month for salaries, which does not come up to half of the wage bill or the salary of the members of staff. What are you going to do for Anambra State University, or for university education in Anambra State if you become the governor? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I'm not surprised you're interested in education. And again, from what I said earlier, you also notice that it's something that is very dear to me. And that's precisely as a result of myself and my siblings being a product of good education. I think I can say that. And we're not we're just average kids. But because our mother was an educationist, she was able to nurture average kids into world-class performers. So I know the value of education, and I know that if we have a leader, a governor, that pays attention to that sector, gives it the priority that it deserves, that we'll do better. But a few things we need to do. You've mentioned that on the ranking, we're always hovering around third or whatever. It is very easy. Anambra is the light of the nation. Let's not forget that, okay? It is very easy to go from third to first in 4 years if you have a leader that wants education to be his priority. And remember, I said that education ought to have been number 1, 2, 3, 4 priority for us, but unfortunately number 2 because of insecurity. So the key is simply this: to ensure that infrastructure is right, invest in infrastructure. And I'm not saying build new structures. No, I don't believe in building new structures. Clean up the ones we have. Just clean them up. Repair, fix them. Right windows, right roofs. Repaint them. Equip the place with the right gadgets, seats, tables, and all that. If they need books, if they need computer equipment, whatever it is, provide the equipment that we need. But it is not that. It's not just that. Equipment and a nice environment will not give you the results you're seeking. It will be down to the trainers, to the people who deliver the service. If we get it right there and motivate them, as I said, even within the health sector, if you pay it properly, pay it promptly, hey, the results will be achieved in 4 years. So it's a priority area for me. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Chief Etiaba. Thank you very much.
And I'll surprise you by going through the other side, too. Just notice that VAR will come through here.
Anyway, if you are just joining us, you're watching on Arise Television the Anambra State 2021 gubernatorial election manifesto presentation taking place here in the auditorium of the Dora Akunrili Women Development Center in Awka. I'm your moderator. My name is Ruben Abati, and I have with me Professor Eziajui and Professor Ogunjiofo as panelists. Now, just as Chief Etiaba was making his concluding remarks, Dr. Godwin Madhuka, gubernatorial candidate of the Accord Party, joined us here. Dr. Madhuka, you're welcome. Well, on my list, I was going to call you next, but I don't know whether you are ready. I see you've taken a cup of water. But if you are ready, I would like to call you to please speak to us about your manifesto. And Dr. Madhuka, you have 5 minutes presentation, and then another 8-10 minutes to respond to questions. Dr. Godwin Madhuka of the Accord Party.
Born in the little town of Umuchukwu, Orumba South local government area, Anambra State in 1959, the Nigerian-American doctor, businessman, and philanthropist is the founder of Las Vegas Pain Institute and Medical Center. He started his education in Norfolk Comprehensive Secondary School and All Saints Grammar School, Umonze, before getting admission at Rust College on a scholarship that covered half of his tuition. He graduated summa cum laude in chemistry from Rust College in 1984 and got another scholarship to study pharmacy at Mercer University, graduating in 1988. After graduation, he worked as a pharmacy technician before getting a full scholarship to study medicine at University of Tennessee, where he completed an internship and graduated in 1993. He furthered to Harvard Medical School and Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center for his postgraduate training and residency in anesthesiology. In 1999, he founded the Las Vegas Pain Institute and Medical Center before expanding to other 6 locations in southern Nevada. He is a clinical faculty supervisor and adjunct professor of pain management and anesthesiology at Touro University, Nevada. He is also a clinical assistant professor of surgery at UNLV School of Medicine. Away from his wide academic qualifications, Madhuka is a well-established man who is enjoying a good life. With shared hint of hard work and resilience, he has been able to live a life he envisaged himself while growing up. Please welcome to the restroom, Dr. Godwin Madhuka.
I'm sorry I'm late, but you know, campaigning and the road in Anambra State, you can get stuck in there for 3 hours. Unfortunately, I guess the presentation is not part of my 5 minutes, right?
Actually, 5 minutes.
Oh.
You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes from now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having the opportunity to be here. I think you already know about me now. I've been in U.S. for about 40 years. Out of that 40 years, I've been coming home for 30 years. I am the son of a native doctor who fell down from palm tree for 8 times, trying to find a way to make a means to go to school. But God is mighty. After finishing high school here in Nigeria, I took the JAM, got admission to go to Uniport. There was no fund. I went back to what I know best, climbing the palm trees. But luckily for me, I was able to be admitted to Ross College in Holly Springs, Mississippi. My younger brother, who is now dead, that was killed in Nkwomunze by a tipper, which is one of the reasons I'm running for the governor. He the one that gave me 5,000 naira, which I used to immigrate to US. Well, I don't know about the educational system now, but in 1970s and early 80s, when you finish the WAEC and make 6 papers, you can challenge any first degree anywhere in the country, in the world. I immigrated to US. Within 2 weeks, I took all the exams for freshman, sophomore, and half of the junior year. Because when I got in there, they were asking me things I already know. So I graduated first class in chemistry in 1 year, 6 months. I ended up going to Master University and took my doctorate degree in pharmacy, became a pharmacist, was practicing, took the exam and entered the University of Tennessee, where I graduated with a medical degree, became an MD. Then was able to be admitted to Harvard Medical School, where I finished my training in critical care, surgery, pain management, and anesthesiology. From there, I went on private practice at Las Vegas. The racism in US was so hard. You couldn't possibly do anything. At one point, I had to take the hospital to court in San Francisco. It was so difficult to practice. But I looked up into the heaven. I said, God, give me my own practice. Before I know it, I was the owner, and I'm still the owner of 6 first-class hospitals in US. Having done that, I came back home. I found Nigeria to be worse than it was in 1982. Things were so difficult. The standard of education was down. The means of living was difficult for people. The youths were roaming around all over the place. But I took it upon myself to train 82% of the people in my town to every university around the world and around the country. I want to let you know today that the one taking care of my practice in US is my own nephew that I trained, where he did everything I did. He came to do computer science. I told him, you can't do that. You wouldn't do medicine. And he listened to me, and now he's taking care of my practice in US and doing very well. I trained a lot of Reverend Fathers. Unfortunately, Dr. Ozigbo, I didn't do yours. But I sent them to Poland, to Italy, to America, I even produced the first medical doctor from Oka Diocese, who is now working in Aguata Umuchu Hospital. I've been a community leader. In my town, I vowed that there's no way, but I did ask God one thing. If you give me 1% of Bill Gates money, I'm going to change the landscape of my community. I think he gave me more than that. And now my town can boast of the tallest medical research building in Africa, the tallest building in Igbo land, the medical research. We build hospitals equipped from Hamburg to Germany, from India, is working. We build civil defense. I build police barracks and divisional police headquarters. We build bridges and roads. There's no thatch house in my city now. We build over 100 homes for widows as well as poor people. I built churches for Anglican and for Catholic. I built homes for Reverend Sisters. I built homes for the Catholic Reverend Father and Ukochuku, Reverend for the Anglican. Help the people, Jehovah Witness, whoever they are.
No, the rules of engagement do not allow us to cheer or jeer. So please, let's just be calm. Thank you.
Yes. So, sorry. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, I am not new to community development, human capital development. I'm not new to that. Unfortunately, some of us, when a child is born in my town, I'll pay for the hospital bills. Guess what? When they die, I pay for the burial. That's the kind of stuff that I'm being used to. Now, I thank God for what He has done in my life. I am 62 years old, but I have the heart of a 32-year-old man. You want to try me? Let's go right. So, in all seriousness, I built my city, Umuchuku, to look like a state. I told them I will build Anambra to look like a country. I have everything a state will have in my city, even including legislature, because I built a place where they can take their retreat. They call the Alliance of African Resort. Why get into governorship? Out of necessity. I'm not here to bash every governor that ever ruled this land. But in Igbo land, they say, onye njemjeko onye isi awọ marive. A well-traveled man might be wiser than a gray-haired man, like my friend over there. And I watched a lot of stuff. I live in the West and I live in the East. Why is it that these people keep going on and moving on and moving on? And we in Africa keep going around and around and around. You look at our leaders. Do you want our children to emulate them? Or what? No, I'm not here to criticize anybody, but there's that vacuum of leadership. Well, thank you. That's why I'm running for the governor of Anambra State.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Madhuka. So, you take questions, from the panelists. I'd like to start. You were once quoted that if you were to become governor of Anambra State, you will establish a university in every local government area. Anambra has 21 local government areas. Have you changed your mind on that? And if you have not, where are you going to get the resources from to build a university in 21 local government areas?
Thank you, sir. I have learned my lesson. Time out. Not everybody that puts microphone in your mouth that you will talk to. I didn't know that the poor guy, when I was in Anambra, didn't understand what satellite campus mean. I'm a lecturer. I'm a triple professor. I've been teaching in the Western world for more than 20 years. In America, every nook and corner have some kind of establishment, some kind of college, university. I told the poor guy that I will build a main university and then I'll proceed 21 local government and have satellite campuses. I didn't know how that would transcend into 21 universities. So, yes, I can build a university or take existing university like Ozigbo Juku's University, or have a different type and have a satellite campuses in 21 local government to bring education closer to the kitchen so that our people, Okada riders, Keke riders, businessmen and women can find out what time is their class and they will go there. My dear moderator, in terms of where the money will come from, now, I want Anambra to listen to me carefully. The money I used to build that tallest building can build that. I'm not saying that I'm going to use my money, but we have a lot of loopholes that we can use to train our children. You do know that I'm not going to use your money. Frankly, nobody's going to pay me for being your governor. I don't need it. So, again, I live in the West. 50% of the money we're going to use to run Anambra State is going to come from foreign investors. I already know them. They're coming with me. In case you're wondering where some of this money will come for the education. But I can simply tell you, if we manage our IGR very good, internal generated revenue, we can do so many things. If you doubt me, send an investigator to Otu Onitsha. Send somebody to Newi, Umunze, and Ekulobia. You see the money that are being collected. Thank you.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, candidate of the Accord Party, Dr. Godwin Madhuka. We seem to be running short of time because we're live on Arise Television. We're live on Chris Television. We're also being broadcast live by Anambra Broadcasting Service and also Ogene FM 98.3. Very quickly, thank you, Dr. Madhuka. I would now like to call the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Valentine Ozigbo.
Born on the 20th of July 1970, the People's Democratic Party candidate is the immediate past president and chief executive officer of Transnational Corporation of Nigeria PLC, Transcorp, a diversified conglomerate with strategic investments and core interests in the hospitality, agribusiness, and energy sectors, a position to which he was appointed in 2019. Previously, Chineto worked in the banking sector, gaining over 17 years of experience with Nile Merchant Bank, Diamond Bank, Continental Trust Bank, FSB International Bank, Standard Trust Bank, United Bank for Africa, and Bank PHP. Ozigbo, who hails from Amesi in Agwata local government area, attended Christ the Redeemer College, a secondary school in Anambra State, where he was an outstanding student. He studied accounting at the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, graduating with a class of 1994 with the best results in both accounting and business administration. He obtained his MBA in banking and finance from the University of Nigeria Nsukka in 2000 and an MSc in finance with distinction from the Lancaster University, UK in 2004. Valentine is a fellow of these prestigious institutions: the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Institute of Credit Administration. As CEO of Transcorp Hotels, he oversaw the hotel's expansion to other cities. He was also responsible for developing 5 new projects worth over $500 million, including 2 hotels in Lagos and Port Harcourt, a 5,000 capacity conference facility, luxury apartments, and the upgrade of existing hotels with additional retail facilities. He is a known leader. Please welcome to the rostrum, Mr. Valentine Chineto Ozigbo.
Thank you, and thank you to Ndi Anambra for having me. I'm a great team player, and so when I see my colleagues who are seated here, I already can tell you that among us are those who will be supporting my administration when I become the next governor of Anambra State. Be that in Omona affairs or security or finance, and a historian. We're talking about Anambra State. And the reason I'm here is because I feel pained. Pained because when you're listening to the people on the street, when you look at the younger ones who are leaving behind, when you look at the women, when you go around and ask how they feel, it is about pains and suffering. Yes, Anambra deserves more. We indeed deserve more. And so I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to talk about my brothers and sisters, Omonem in the Anambra State. I am certain that indeed, if the right things are done, with the type of resources that we have, with the people that we have, with the intellect that we possess, we can do a lot more. We can take care of the basics, and we can actually indeed begin to shift our mindset to Anambra becoming an exemplary state and where we can all be proud of. So I'm here basically to share a few highlights of my manifesto. I actually don't call it my manifesto because it's a product of my engagement within the Anambra. I toured our 21 local governments, in most cases over 7 times. And when I did engage our people, my simple question used to be, what do you need? What do you want from your next governor? And in delivering this feedback, you're able to decipher that indeed what we need in one local government may be different from what we need in another. What we need from our younger generation may be different from what we need from our elders. And what we need from men may be different from what we need from our women. So we crafted what we call Anambra Chapel Manifesto. And the simplest way to basically define this is what we've done to define in 3 different approaches. How do we do things differently? How do we leverage the power inherent in the Anambra people? How do we begin to challenge the status quo? We can't keep doing the same thing all the time and expect a different result. I'm here to tell our people indeed that Anambra can do more and can achieve more. We have the clustering approach. We also have what I call the partnership approach, and what we have also called what we call the sector approach. On the clustering, how do we begin to concentrate our effort and energy on things that will change the status quo in those respected areas? We have 5 clusters we want to focus on. We have the Onitsha cluster, where we can actually transform Onitsha to what it should become, a disciplined, law and order environment, where we raise the competitiveness of the Anambra, where we can make more money, where we can generate more resources, where we can get people more prosperous. In doing this, we're looking at infrastructure, we're looking at the quality of human capacity index. We're also looking at things, the basic the requirements of life, including especially the roads and security. On the industrial cluster, which is going to be our Nnewi and Ihiel axis and Ekwusigo axis, this is the area we can concentrate on making sure our people leverage their industrial prowess. Because indeed, when we do this, we begin to tackle the issues that we have, taking care of unemployment, making sure women are gainfully employed, and indeed, ultimately, we can focus on the sectors that we consider key priorities. Also look at the capital city where we are. Oka, being a glorified village today, can become a much better city. And we're not going to be one of those people that will begin to start new projects just because we want to have our signage on the template on the project. How do we leverage existing projects, abandoned projects, like where we are today, like the International Conference Center, like making sure we have the tourism infrastructure, the educational infrastructure, the health infrastructure, all working within the Oka metropolis. And we also have the Omambala axis, which is the Anambra East, West, Oyi, and Ayamelum. This is an area where we are known for agricultural production. Can we take things from peasant level to where we can actually move on to processing, ultimately to export? And finally, the Old Agota Union can be, indeed, a technology hub. When we look at things like this, we actually begin to focus on the second part, which is the sector approach, where we are looking at things based on their impact. How do we focus on things that are impactful, that will help us in solving the needs that we identified within the Anambra? And this is where we come to talk about, again, education and health. Under education, our focus will be on quality, affordability, and relevance. Be it, from primary to tertiary. How do we ensure that what we are teaching is qualitative and is relevant? And how do we make sure that people can afford, especially for those who are downtrodden? Move on to healthcare. How do we indeed focus on the primary healthcare center, provide more resources, and make sure the right budgetary allocations are shifted to this, so that people who work in these areas are taken care of, their welfare. We boost their morale, and ultimately, we can actually move on to where, indeed, we can leverage the power with our diasporans to see that healthcare infrastructure gets to the level we can be proud of. And security is one area that keeps resonating. What can we do in this area? How do we make sure our property and life are safe? We can do a lot of things that I can leverage from my experiences, having worked in multiple institutions, especially at Transcorp Hilton, which is one of the most secure pieces of real estate in Nigeria. How do we leverage what we did there? Get people's morale boosted, make sure that more money goes into providing the care that we need. How do we make sure that we have right partnerships with the right embassies, the foreign countries that can help us in translating this to what our people need here? And moving from the short-term things in security to longer-term things in security, how do we ensure that indeed the regional policing, the community policing, and the state policing are all well architected in a manner that can give us the solution we deserve? And there are several other sectors we want to talk about. And then move on to the partnership approach, where we can leverage the resources of Ndi Anambra. If we have Ndi Anambra in their numbers, with their wealth, pouring in education sector, in healthcare sector, in road infrastructure, and when they do anything, you match with what they've done. You create that competitiveness so that people can begin to brag about the right things, brag about the number of roads we've constructed, brag about the life they've changed. And when we do this, we have created a catalytic impact that can help in solving a general problem. So, in general, I want to do simple things in an extraordinary manner. I want to do extraordinary things in a simple manner. And when we have done this, Anambra will be a state we can be proud of. Thank you.
Well, Professor Ozigbo, let me start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Ozigbo, for your presentation. I was interested in your clusters, Onitsha, Oka, then more interested when you mentioned Anambra axis. I want to refer you to Anambra West, the local government over the river, where for the past 8 years, there is not one single sign of government presence. What are you going to do there if you become governor? I want to assure you that I'm not from that place. I'm from Okuzu. Secondly, all of you have spoken about infrastructure, basic infrastructure, road, and all that. Nobody has spoken about water. Nobody. And our water works have all been dilapidated and shut down since the time of Peter Obi as governor. Don't we need a state where the government provides water for its populace, as we know is done in, will I say, civilized and reasonable countries? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And let me say, I have been to a good number of places in Anambra West, and I can totally agree with this expression. What I can say, when I visited the area, especially during the waterlogged period, where you see people swimming on the river, you find that not a single well-constructed road has lasted on there. For me, places like that, with high economic empowerment asset, because they're known not just for the agricultural inputs, especially when it comes to fishing. I can tell you, when we do the right things there, just two basic things: provide sufficient road infrastructure and also water transportation infrastructure. And by doing so, also provide the ability for us to take agriculture to that from that peasant level to where we can actually process. Thankfully, we now have the cargo airport in the Anambra axis. So it's easy for us to become a net exporter of these farm produce. And when we've done this, they'll become richer and they can take care of themselves. And indeed, the presence of government will be felt. And then talking about the second question on infrastructure. Indeed, because of want of time, if you do go through my manifesto, you will see that water is actually taken care of. And it's not just the boreholes like people do in Anambra State. It's the proper water system. When I talk about infrastructure, I talk about the system. Infrastructure covers water, covers gas infrastructure, it covers the port system, covers road infrastructure. When we do all this and connect in a very integrated manner, we can begin to make Anambra more competitive, because that's when it becomes like where human beings live and thrive. So quite frankly, I want to focus on these areas. And in doing this, I am aware that we do have limited resources. We collect average of 80 billion in revenue, FAC of about 50 billion, and IGR of about 28 billion. And meaning that in 4 years, we would have collected about 240 billion. There's a lot we can achieve with this. But even without given all the needs that we have, we can also leverage the power of the private sector in these areas. We can leverage the power of multilaterals to see that together, from government money, from private sector money, from multilaterals, we can solve all our infrastructure problems within my first time in office. Thank you.
Well, Prof, over to you. And please, while responding to Prof's question, please be brief. We're running short of time.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your manifesto. The development of a state is highly dependent on mobility. Now, ability of people to move from place to access places, to carry goods. Now, moving about in Anambra State in recent times has become quite tortuous. All the major roads, all the minor roads. So, sir, can you just tell us in concrete terms, and maybe you may begin to mention the stretches that you intend to work on, how you intend to rehabilitate or construct new routes for Anambrarians. The other day, I went from Amansi to Ebenebe. I'm not from there, I'm from Orumba North. A journey that would have taken me 3 minutes, it took me 1 hour of torturous maneuvering. And that is almost what is happening everywhere in this state. We're having hold-ups that we never experienced before. So, sir, how do you hope to handle road construction in Anambra State?
It is indeed painful. It is now we begin to define federal road and state road, things we never had and known before. Mine is to ameliorate the pains of the Anambra, and we can do this in 2 major ways. Number one, the resources we have. When we plug the leakages, we can actually generate a lot more than 80 billion. And we can channel it in making sure we build the right quality of roads. When Dr. Ngige was governor, he built average of 66-kilometer roads a year. P2B took that to another level by building 100 kilometers of roads a year. I will emphasize quality. I will also emphasize quantity. And how do I achieve more with little? Is by leveraging again the power of the Anambra. I went to Ojoto, and I said to them when I went there to commission 5 lengths of roads, and I said to them, when I resume, by the grace of God, when I zoom office as the next governor, if God allows, I will come back to Ojoto to match that 5-kilometer road with another equivalent of 5-kilometer road. And when I have done that, I will challenge the rest of the Anambra. If you're envious, go build your own road, and I'll come match with equivalent number of roads. And when we have done that, trust me, Anambra Gachap.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valentine Ozigbo, gubernatorial candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the Anambra gubernatorial election 2021. If you're just joining us, this is the Anambra 2021 gubernatorial manifesto presentation event organized by Quechiri Unity Forum in conjunction with Arise Television. And we're broadcasting live from the Dora Akunyili Women Development Center in Oka, Anambra State. Well, we'll soon be rounding up. I promise that this will not take us more than 2 hours. So we have very few minutes left. But before we go, I'd like to call the gubernatorial candidates again. If they could just summarize in 1 minute each so that we can take the vote of thanks and the national anthem, and we'll be out of here. Let me start in the same order in which, we started by calling first Colonel Architect Jeff Onyejigbo, PhD, candidate of the Allied People's Movement. 1 minute each, and then we're done. Hello? Oh, the mic should be on. Someone is there.
I hope this is not part of my 1 minute. Well, I am really enthralled so much to have my colleagues come up here and really discharge themselves as possible governors in their various callings. When Val was talking about how he's going to make the economy of Anambra State better than any economy, and showing the graphics, the research work he did, I'm like, hey, I've got a guy that can do this better in my accounting department only. Now, Ben had been wonderful, and he has never lost any election, and he will not lose this one, because when I win, he wins. Okay, having said that, Gordy, that guy, that poor guy, God will make him understand that satellite campuses are not universities. All right, I think in the Anambra, we are all before you. We are possible employees with our credentials. We are asking for your votes. And I want to tell you, when you want to hire, there are set down criteria, qualifications that the possible employees will meet. When once every one of us has shown that he got that, then you look for the added advantage.
Well, thank you very much.
So those added advantages that Colonel Jeff Onyejebu, with his security experience, stands out.
Thank you
that
very
Jeff Onyejebu is a diplomat who can get things from the United States where he was a diplomat.
Thank you very much.
I thank you all.
Okay. Well, next, let me call Chief Ben Chaba. Please, let's be brief. I don't want us to be taken off air, so that everyone will get a chance to just give their closing remarks. Very briefly.
Omunnem the Anambra. Let me end my evening by quoting John Scully, who was a former CEO of Apple, that the future belongs to those who see possibilities before they become obvious. I see a possibility that the next governor elected on the 6th of November this year will be from a party that has never won before in Anambra State. That's the first one. I see the second possibility that, as with all the governors we have elected since Ezife, Mbadnuju, Ngige, Peter Obi, my mom who didn't contest but became governor for a few months, and Governor Willie Obiano, the next governor of Anambra State will be somebody who's contesting for the first time. Those are the two possibilities I see. But let me give you a different quote from Ronald Reagan. He said that the greatest leader is not the one that does the greatest things, but the one that is able to get others to do the greatest things. So I offer an olive branch to Colonel to come and sort out security for me. Val will be great in finance. Akachuku, you are a guru. And in health, we have my brother, Dr. Madhuka. Thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful evening.
Very quickly, Nze Akachuku Nwapo. Please, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Thank you, everyone. I want to bring your attention to a WhatsApp. There's something going on online. Supposedly, I think it was said by Mr. Pitobi, that there are 3 candidates in this election. He mentioned his own dear Val, Soludo, and Andioba. Take note that these 3 candidates represent those institutions that hold the taxpayers' money, and they are making every effort to buy the taxpayer with the taxpayers' money. What do you have? What I bring to you is that the issue of governance in Anambra State today is the control of people in government. Anambra has talents. Anambra has rich people, as you can see from our court brother, who has capacity. He is in government because there is irresponsible governance. The man has capacity to create wealth and bring it home.
and character. I'm placing my bets on the collective intelligence of the Anambra. And by the special grace of God, behold your next governor.
Thank you very much. Well, just as we wrap up, the vote of thanks will be given by Dr. Ansam Onwa of the Kwechiri Unity Forum, the socio-political pressure group in Anambra State that has put this whole event together in conjunction with Arise TV. Dr. Ansam Onora, over to you.
Your Excellencies, here seated, a learned and distinguished panelist. Anambra munu, Anambra lienu, ayadi kechinechi anara agu. My job is very simple, to say thank you, and that's what I'm doing now. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. One thing I'm certain, God's willing, is that among the candidates seated here, we are going to have the executive governor of Anambra State emerge among them. The Anambra, these are people who have planned for us, and they have not shied away to come and talk to us. These people have shown that if you call them in the night, they will come. If you call them in the evening, they will come. If you call them anywhere, no matter the danger, they are ready to come. And I call them the servant of the servant of the servant of the masses. My prayer for everybody is that come November 6th, one, the best, the primus inter pares will emerge to lead Anambra to the height. We are suffering. Most of you here are rich people. You won't understand what we are doing. We are suffering. We need a Messiah. And I know in our head, from what we have presented, we begin to think what that Messiah will look like from what we have presented here. And I pray God to lead all of you. I know the stress, the everything. As you go on, may God lead all of you. To our panelists, thank you so much. Thank you. Kwechiri members, this is just the beginning. We keep on moving. Thank you so much, and God bless all of us.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ansam Onora, speaking on behalf of Kwechiri Unity Forum.